Mindset Reset, it's Free Cash Friday, day 3 on the backside of the week. Today we'll address some questions. I'm going to give you some homework. We're going to talk about a few important aspects about the trading week and going forward, some things that we'll do in the technical video over the weekend, but also preparing for next week's trading opportunities. Now, one of the first things that I want to sort of explain to traders today, we talk about stuff every time in the Mindset Reset videos because it's about getting your head right, not only aligning yourself with the outcomes that you're after, but also aligning your approach to trading, your mechanical model to align with the outcomes that you're after. So one of the things that I talk about, just going back to the basic template and the playbook and everything else, is Friday's closing price. Friday's closing price is where everything starts from. I don't care what market it is. I don't care if it's an index, a metal, a currency, or an energy. On day 2, as I repeat every single week, day 2 typically expands the range. Now, one of the things that I really want to hammer home to you, and you can do some homework, into Saturday, Sunday. I'm going to do a technical video on this again. I'm going to add some material to the playbook. But on day 2, if we're looking for range expansion opportunities, whether they're in the long direction or the short direction, we'll talk about that as well. I talked to my friend Steven about this. So if we're looking at an index, a currency, a metal, or an energy, we may get a day 2 range expansion in Asia on a currency pair, or in oil, or natural gas, or whatever it is. But if I come to the screen in the New York session, my first priority, my first priority, the first 2 markets, pretty much 90% of the time that I look at immediately are gold and the NASDAQ. That's where I start everything from. Now, I talk about having a basket of instruments because on the day, if I'm looking at the NASDAQ as my primary trading index vehicle, I'm still going to look at the Dow, the S&P, and the Russell to see if one of those templates is a cleaner chart on the day. Now, we'll talk about a couple of things about the indexes. Now, if you go and look at the indexes, I look at the Russell as the weakest. I see the S&P following the NASDAQ, but a bit sluggish. It's a bigger market, not as volatile. The NASDAQ top 100 companies in a tech index tends to have the most volatility, which is primarily why it's my main focus. It offers consistent, frequent, repeatable behaviors week in and week out. Now, if I have the Dow on the day and the Dow is offering maybe a better short selling setup, or the NASDAQ's offering a cleaner long setup, I'm going to pick one and be done. Now, let's just talk about that because I want to emphasize to traders. Let's say on Tuesday, I'm looking for range expansion trades, and let's say I'm long biased. I'm looking for long expansion trades on day 2 on Tuesday. So here's the thing. I'm looking for the instrument that may offer me a day 2 range expansion trade setup. So when traders say it looks fine after the fact, I always joke with my friend Steven, do they even know what they're looking for, or are they trying to trade? My friend Steven trades one specific setup in the long direction or the short direction, and not until after 10 a.m. Now, here's the thing with my friend Steven. When his setup presents, he doesn't think about it. He hits the trade, puts in his stop and a measured target for his take profit level. Now, if we're on the front side of the week, he may leave a runner. If we're on the back side of the week and it's a reversal setup, is it a session trade or is it an all-in monkey hammer on day 2 on the backside? So on day 2, as we talk about, I look for reversal trade setup opportunities on whatever instrument offers me the best template. So I really want to hammer this home. So for traders that can't see things before the fact, that's because they're looking to try and find a trade. Now, trying to find a trade versus hunting a 90-10 money-making setup are 2 different things. And that's a really important mindset shift. So if we get a day 1 runner, for example, we get a day 1 runner and a day 2 inside day, no range expansion setup on an instrument, guess what might happen on day 3? We could have a false break reversal setup. We could have a range expansion setup, if that's part of your criteria. Now, this is why it's important for traders to grasp this, because If you're looking for trades every day, that's different than traders that are hunting specific money-making setups. So that's your first piece of homework. If you're following one instrument. Now I'm going to go through this in a video. We're going to track certain markets and go back and look at their historical bias and then establish for certain instruments, like I can tell you certain currency pairs, cross rate pairs, that stay largely in range bound areas. And they give consistent trade setups in certain sessions repeatedly because they trade back and forth between a large trading range. So when they're up high, they give short selling opportunities. When they're down low, they give buying opportunities. So whatever cycle they're in may offer traders opportunities on the front side of a week or on the back side of a week. So guess what our go-to opportunities are if you have them in your basket? You're looking for instruments that offer you repeating setups again and again and again. Now, if you're trying to trade every day, then you're going to look at stuff and go, well, it looks good after the fact. How about posting a chart beforehand? So here's a response to that. Guess what I look for on Tuesdays? On Tuesdays and Thursdays. I look for the same setups on Tuesdays and Thursdays, depending on whether or not an instrument offers those setups. Now, let's talk about Friday. So Friday, today is the last trading day of the week. It closes out the week. If you're not sure what that means, open up a weekly bar chart, not a candlestick. You can use a candlestick, but open up a bar chart and look at, you'll always have an open, a low, a high, and a close, or an open, high, and a low, and a close, a bar chart. So on Fridays, we can get two types of situations. We can get profit taking, we can get consolidation. We had a large range expansion on the second last day of the trading month on Thursday, day 2 on the indexes, blowing off to monthly highs and reversing the popcorn trade. And then we consolidate back inside of larger weekly high-low ranges from the failed breakout. Now it's Friday, the last trading day of the month, and we're inside of a larger trading range. We don't have any major red news. Traders are astonished that at 10 a.m. we can get reversals back inside of the range. I call that the common sense trade. The common sense trade is, if it gives you the setup on the day, the Friday, the closing range, not Monday, not Thursday. We're talking about Friday. They're closing out the week and the month. So there's a high probability that the closing range may offer a 10 a.m. reversal. That's a common sense trade. That's a 3-session setup on a Friday. The same as on a Monday, looking for 3-session setups. Now, I don't have a bias. I don't have a prediction. I don't care about little gaps, sweeps, and hunts inside of ranges. I'm looking for opportunities when markets break out. Now, I'm not always looking for reversals. My friend Steven only trades reversals. Now, I'm looking for range expansion opportunities, and they can be with trend, because certain markets, when they go on range expansions, are going to continue to trend. Now, that's different than trading a reversal into a market that may be just consolidating. That's not the same as a monkey hammer all in that's going to wipe out the extremes of a week. So when you know exactly what you're hunting on certain days of the week within the month, then that's rinse and repeat. And you look for the same opportunities that make you a lot of money, as opposed to hunting trades where I'm trying to catch moves. So that's the mindset shift today. Now, there's going to be traders who don't like that, because if you don't know what you're actually hunting, none of that makes sense. If you don't know what you're hunting, that means you're looking to try and trade a market. Now, I talk about this all the time. I tried that for almost 20 years probably, taking trades, win some, lose some. But then I decided to focus on setups where I had a 90-10 edge. Some of them are going to be nail and bail. Some of them are going to be all-in opportunities for 5-star scalable setups that are the ACBs. They're not coming back. And as I posted yesterday, it didn't come back because certain templates, and as I mentioned to one trader, first clue is that they're in breakouts at extremes and they're repeating patterns on specific days of the month, and they do the same types of behavior. They may move in London. They may break down in London and coil into the US window. They may blow off into the US Open because of major red news. But the same templates repeat over and over and over again. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll just be trying to trade it and not understand when you have an ACB template opportunity. Traders in the masterclass know what that is. And it's just when those templates present, whether, and I talked about this with my sons. I don't teach my sons to trade the Thursday extreme that we saw in the indexes yesterday, only the sideways coil, the 3-session setup, specifically on a certain day of the week. And that's because their tradings setup is a rinse and repeat setup when it presents. When it doesn't present, they don't take any trades. They don't need to trade. They trade when the setup presents. They don't go there every day trying to figure out how to trade or where they can get a trade or how many pushes were in the candle or where the gap is or where the block is or waiting for a sweep or a hunt. None of that. I have instruments that show up on my watch list for that setup on the day. How does it present into the timing window? Is there a setup? Yes or no? No, come back tomorrow or come back the next week in their particular case. So rinse and repeat is this. On Monday, I look for Monday setups. On Tuesday, I look for day 2 setups. And on Wednesday, I look for day 3 setups, whether they're reversals or trend trades. Now it's Friday, day 3, 10 a.m. club, step up. We're at the closing range of the week and the last trading day of the month. We had a large expansion that failed. We may now just be consolidating into the close of the week, which means it's a day where traders can potentially get chopped up if they stick around and try and trade it. So that's the mindset shift. So first piece of homework is to go back, and if you're not sure what those templates are, and again, we talk about the basic signal day Wednesday. So again, as I mentioned to traders today, Friday, we had first red days. Okay, we had first red days, but we closed out. That was a failed breakout back inside of the range. We're in a larger trading range, high low of the week. And now we have the last trading day of the month and also the closing range of the week. Consolidation, we're narrowing down, we're tightening up into the close of the week. We could have President Trump tweet later, of course, and do anything. But Monday's the most common day for a gap, Monday morning. So guess what? Traders that are sticking around or holding positions, lo and behold, could get surprised into a Monday morning gap. So at the end of the week, if we've had range expansion and then range reversal, or we're in a range, if we're in the front side of a month, we can still get a 3-day template, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday template that continues to expand the range. A common day to see that with is a non-farm payrolls week or the week after non-farm payrolls if we have a week that breaks out into the new month. Not rocket science. It's rinse and repeat. Simplification is exactly that. I don't worry about anything. I come to this screen on Monday. I look for certain setups. If I don't see them, there's no trade. I do the same thing on Tuesday, the same thing on Wednesday, same thing on Thursday, and the same thing on Friday. So having a bias, having a prediction, having a level, none of that means anything to me. Do I have a setup? Yes or no? If not, yes, take the trade. If not, no, come back or look at another instrument to see if it is set up for those opportunities within that weekly template. Rinse and repeat, traders. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Love you and appreciate you. It's been a fantastic week. Rinse and repeat next week. We're going to see the same templates next week. I said this yesterday. We are going to see the same templates. Might be different instruments, might be different sort of template, but we're still going to see first red day. We're going to see first green days. We're going to see day 2 range expansions, and we're going to see day 2 reversals. Front side of the week, back side of the week. Have a great weekend, and may the markets go with you.